Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Fred Foley, and I am a clinical psychologist and have been the Director of Neuropsychology and Psychosocial Research at Holy Name Medical Center's Multiple Sclerosis Center in Teaneck, New Jersey. Also a Professor Emeritus at Yeshiva University in the Bronx, and I have an appointment in the Department of Neurology at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, also in the Bronx. And I've been working with persons with MS and their family members for many years now. I'd like to start by saying there are three major mental health obstacles for persons with MS that they have informed me about over the years. First, the rates of clinical depression and anxiety are very high in persons with MS. The general population, of course, gets depression and anxiety, but the lifetime risk of a severe depression called major depressive disorder is about 50% in persons with MS, which is much higher than the general population. Likewise, the lifetime risk for anxiety disorders, which isn't just your normal worrying, it's excessive and interferes in your quality of life and in some of your activities. It runs between 40% and 70% in persons with MS. So that's the first mental health obstacle. Secondly, balancing the life demands such as work, education, family, finances with demands of MS symptoms and care on top of that, and still attempting to carve out time for your personal life, for relaxation, for exercise, enjoying life, and enhancing personal relationships represents a large challenge. Balancing life for a person without MS is a challenge. When you add MS into the mix, it becomes more of a challenge, yet it's a very important one to address. Third, MS comes with much uncertainty. One of my patients described it to me as, after I was diagnosed, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know when I was going to have my next exacerbation. I didn't know what my prognosis would be down the road. He said to me, I felt like I had the sword of Damocles hanging by a thin thread over my head all the time as I was going through my day. So managing that uncertainty and learning to live with it is an important aspect of a mental health challenge. So regarding that first mental health challenge I mentioned, anxiety and depression, fortunately, there are very effective treatments available, such as cognitive behavioral psychotherapy. It's a particular type of psychotherapy that addresses changing the thinking that's associated with depression and anxiety, and also focuses on enhancing your problem solving. And that has been found to be effective in both significant clinical anxiety and depression in MS. And of course, there's also the panoply of antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs and mood stabilizers that have also been found to be helpful in persons with MS. So we know how to address depression and anxiety in MS. And regarding the uncertainty, the therapy can also address that, but we've also found in our practice that teaching patients mindfulness meditation, which is a way of staying focused on the present moment, helps to lessen the distress associated with uncertainty. Because when you're feeling uncertainty, you're really projecting into the future some anticipated negative outcome. And by teaching people to focus on the present moment, it helps reduce that uncertainty and that concern about the future. It is critically important to empower persons with MS to be their own advocate. In this regard, education about MS and what to do about it is very helpful. For example, education about resources that are available to persons with MS and their families is important and is widely available. There are many MS organizations that provide education and information, such as the National MS Society, the Multiple Sclerosis Association of America, the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, the Consortium of Multiple Sclerosis Centers, and others are there to provide information and education and resources, as well as referrals to persons with MS and their loved ones. It's important that we give persons with MS the message that MS does not define you as a human being, or as a mother, as a father, as a sister, as a brother, and all the other roles that we engage in. Putting MS in its proper place in your life helps shift perspective to a more positive one. There are specific strategies that can help people living with MS to overcome these obstacles that we've discussed. First, as I've already mentioned, providing information and education about the relevant health, relationship, social, financial issues that people with MS face, providing that information, education, and resources. Those resources and education are empowering, and it will help persons with MS take charge of their lives more, to be their own advocate. Providing treatment for emotional distress and for the depression and anxiety and uncertainty we've mentioned is also helpful, because these treatment methods are effective and free people up emotionally to live their lives more fully and more happily. Another aspect strategy is looking for the silver linings that MS sometimes, or even frequently, brings. There have been many studies conducted in chronic diseases, and specifically in MS, on something that's called benefit finding. Benefit finding is, in essence, what positive things in your life changed or occurred after your diagnosis. And in these studies, people with MS have said, I enhanced key relationships in my life. I learned who my friends really were, my close friends, and they became more spiritual in nature. They reported not sweating the small stuff in life that they used to, and also experiencing gratitude for the things in their life that they were truly grateful for. Not just focusing on what's wrong in my life, but focusing on what's positive in my life. And those benefit finding strategies, we've learned we can help people with MS enhance. And this leads to feelings of empowerment and the ability to kind of live a more full life and put the MS in its proper place in your life. I would like to share with you a success story of a patient of mine who thrived in spite of all of the mental health challenges and the other challenges that he faced with dealing with his multiple sclerosis. I had a patient who was diagnosed with progressive multiple sclerosis, and initially he was quite depressed and quite anxious, and he felt a sense of helplessness and disempowerment. And so the first thing we did, aside from kind of treating the MS directly, was to help him become alleviated from these emotional symptoms he was experiencing. So he engaged in cognitive behavioral psychotherapy to address the depression and anxiety. He was also given an anti-anxiety medicine to assist with that. And he was feeling better emotionally. And once he was feeling better emotionally, he then had the energy to learn and educate himself about MS. He voraciously learned everything he could about multiple sclerosis, the symptoms, the obstacles, the treatments, and what resources were available to deal with it. For example, he kind of progressed to being in a wheelchair. And so he sold his car that he could no longer drive, and it was a nice car, relatively speaking. And he bought a van that he was able to adapt so that he could roll his wheelchair into it and drive with hand controls. He said this gave him such a feeling of empowerment that he wasn't going to let MS take this away from him. He also found ways to navigate traveling, to navigate airports. His family lived across the country, and he managed to learn everything he could about how to travel with a disability. And he was able to go and fly and see his family once a year if he could afford it, or in some years, maybe even twice. So he learned to manage his symptoms well. He had significant fatigue. And so he got consultations for fatigue from his neurologist, and he engaged in physical therapy that addressed his fatigue and other strategies. He learned to only do the tasks that were critically important to him that day when he had the energy, when his MS fatigue was at the least, which for him happened to be in the morning. And again, every now and then he would have dips in his mood that he became very attuned to and would seek help right away so that he wouldn't sink into any more full-blown depressions. So he also experienced sexual dysfunction, and just by educating him on that topic, he was able to address that successfully because that was something that was important to his quality of life. He told me that he knew that MS was going to throw him more curveballs down the road in life, but he developed a sense of coping confidence. He told me that, wow, I've had to overcome a lot. And he objected to the word obstacles. He was a very competitive person by nature. And so he said, they're not obstacles, Dr. Foley, they're challenges. And I'm competitive and I like challenges. So with that kind of mental shift in attitude, he said that, I know more things are going to happen with the MS, but I'm going to take them on as challenges, and I believe I'll be able to manage them, just as I've been able to manage all the challenges I've been faced with today. There are several things that I would like you to take away from this video today. First, that MS does not define you as a person. You are much more than your MS. And that is very important to remember. I mean, MS, when there's new symptoms or exacerbations or new challenges or curveballs, as my patient said, are thrown your way. Well, at those moments, it's going to come to the forefront of your thinking and your emotions and your focus and attention. But it's important not to live life as a crisis. It's important to be able to let that MS fade into the background, as that moment has been dealt with or that challenge has been dealing with. And then to refocus on the things that are meaningful and important to you in your daily lives. Second, managing MS is a journey. It's important to get the education, professional help, and resources to help you overcome the challenges that you face. It's in advocating for yourself, it's important to have a good healthcare team. If you're not satisfied with your healthcare team, you might want to consider looking for other options so that your concerns and issues can be successfully addressed and you feel heard and listened to and validated by your healthcare team. Third, MS comes with losses. It's okay to grieve those losses that are brought into your life, but then, after doing that, look for those silver linings. Do not stay focused on them. Deepen a couple of your key relationships. Put your energy there. Do for others. Studies have been found that people with chronic diseases, including MS, that do things for others, feel better about themselves and feel empowered and self-efficacious. So one of my patients who was quite disabled said to me, Dr. Foley, everyone in my family has to take care of me. How can I do for others? But I knew her. I knew that she was intuitive and empathic by nature. I said, one thing that you can do, that you can give to your family, that would be tremendous, is to be a great listener. Be a sounding board for them. Your physical body may not be able to help in any way, but your mind and your emotions can. And she said, I'm going to do that. And she did that. And it filled her with a sense of meaningfulness and importance. And she also realized her family was talking to her more, not just about their concerns for her, but their concerns in their own lives. So it's important also to remember to appreciate something about life every day and to kind of look for those silver linings so that you can thrive, with MS, even though it presents with many challenges. Thank you very much.